Shut up and sit down.
The good bike rider is easy to recognize. He makes sure his bicycle is always in perfect mechanical condition. He learns how to ride and knows all the bicycle rules and traffic laws before riding on the streets.
Some people play basketball, some fly their kite. But as for me, there's only one thing I like, and that is to pedal with all my might when I'm riding my bike.
You pressed play and are now listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand, Evan Price, Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. For your information, spending today complaining about yesterday won't make tomorrow any better. Enjoy the show.
Let's go riding on our bikes, there's so much to see. Let's go riding on our bikes, come along with me. Let's go riding on our bikes, come riding with me.
You can choose to take your finite time and energy and effort, and you can spend it complaining, or you can spend it playing the game hard, which is probably going to be more helpful to you in the long run.
Hi, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing. I'm here with Evan Price.
All right, so today I am drinking. This is from the YouTube's world. So anybody who knows the YouTube's pretty cool,
Which we don't.
is no except for Matt here, who is a bona fide YouTuber. This is Ghost Orange drink, orange cream energy drink. It's a slightly healthier version than my usual Red Bull. There's more
debatable.
ingredients I
It's
can
debatable.
pronounce. Let me put it
Like
that way.
Sugar.
Yeah. But on a side note, drinks wise, okay, Jake's got something cool. Matt's over here with our former sponsor, Kirkland.
Yeah, Kirkland, former sponsor.
Is that a non-alcoholic
Kombucha.
beer? What is that? Oh no, it's kombucha.
It's kombucha. It's a Dr. Brew.
Gotcha.
Brew doctor, actually, Brew Doctor, not dyslexia. It's the Clear Mind, the rosemary, mint, sage, and green tea.
Ooh, that
It
looks
tastes
delicious.
it tastes a lot better than rosemary and sage would sound inside kombucha, but it's very tasty. Yeah, it's good.
I've been drinking an absurd amount of coffee lately because we just
Carlos.
No, this is non-alcoholic stuff that we got at the grocery store.
Nice.
New seasons.
My wife brought this one home. We usually get it from Costco, and it's usually in a bottle. But
Nice.
this time she brought home some cans, and I snagged one from the fridge this morning before I left.
Cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We just got a new Philips espresso maker.
How is it?
The Philips LG something. I forget the name of it. It's amazing. I don't know why we haven't gotten one of these years ago. It's magical.
Change your life.
I am drinking so much coffee right now. It's great.
Did you turn into Cornholio?
Yes, I did. Yes, exactly. I think on Sunday before I got on the bike, I think I had like 3 espressos for no reason. Like I felt fine, ready to go. I was like, you know what? Why don't we just have more espressos than anybody
good,
should
right?
have? Because
Love it.
yeah.
Afternoon. You're going to have one this afternoon, aren't you?
So absolutely.
Yeah.
Kevin's right. Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys are looking fantastic. You're looking good.
And Lance Hepler.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Well, he needs some sort of like out on the road again.
He's
He's
in. We'll do that in post. he's definitely like somewhere between here and Utah right now on the
I
road.
can tell you exactly
I
where
think
it is.
he's
I'm on
making.
Stalker.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah, he's making trails back. If I'm
Is
not
that the name of the
mistaken.
app, Stalker?
It's called Stalker.
Knowing Lance, he stopped at some gravel road and he shot us down
Riding his bike, yeah.
because he's out riding his gravel bike. So
Actually, yeah, we
Had
can
a
track
good
on
reason.
Instagram. I was watching him on Instagram last night or this morning or something. He looked like he was in the middle of nowhere.
it's
but
not
it's
bad that
beautiful.
we all like check and see where Lance is at when he's doing
I'm
it on
like,
a regular
Well, yeah, because that's
basis.
the only way we're going to know if he's lost or out there where we need to help him. Is
Right on.
International man of mystery.
Yes, he is.
Location not found. He's off the grid,
grid.
people.
Oh, boy.
He's off
Wasn't
the
lying,
grid.
was he?
Somebody check on him.
Right on. Hey, how about some backpedaling real quick? Matt, you want to go first?
I got nothing. I have
Sweet.
nothing. I ran whatever it was last Sunday. You know, I did just like I did my normal like Sunday 3.5 or whatever, and then I accidentally like banged my Achilles on something in Ethan's room.
Why did you do
and
that?
then I was like trying to put some bike shoes on for like just like a little bike thing, and I was in so much pain, like in just.
This is why you don't skateboard with Ethan, man.
I wasn't skateboarding. It was like just something in his room or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think whatever my bursa is or whatever has gotten
Just got
inflamed.
pissed off. Yeah.
Very pissed off. I've struggled to walk all week.
Really? Since then?
My life is a nightmare. And I still biked on Tuesday. We did a Tuesday.
Yeah, we did the team ride.
team ride.
Yep.
Highlight of my week, I guess. Because
Yeah.
I got nothing else going on. I don't know.
David Goodman asked you a question, I believe, on your Strava post for that,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I don't think you answered it.
What did he say?
Did you win?
Oh, yes. Did I win? Of course.
David wins Strava comments, so I love.
Oh, yeah.
David on group rides is hilarious because him and Dustin used to have this joke that I was obsessed with always winning group rides. So we'd always be saying like zone 2 today, zone 2. Somebody would go and I just follow them for no reason. So David will always comment if there's ever a group ride that me or Dustin is involved, he'd be like, "Did you win though? Did you win the group ride?" You're like, yes, I won the group ride.
He came over for dinner last night. It was so much fun.
Oh
It
yeah.
was just awesome.
I got to watch the Bengals game with him. He sat down and watched the Bengals game with me.
Nice.
This is really all that, and we can just skip to my back pedal now because
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
nothing triathlon, don't care, nobody cares. I had a big training week, and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the AFC Championship for the first time since I have been born.
This is your back pedal.
This is my back pedal. My family and all my friends in Cincinnati and Dayton area
wild.
going wild. There is
Last time was
1989. Yes, and that was the year they went and got spanked by the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
January
Before you were
24th,
born,
1989.
Yes, exactly. And it's funny because Cassie knows that date too. So Cassie is a 49ers fan.
Yep.
So her dad is excited. You know, Yo is excited for the Bengals to be in the AFC Championship game. But if the 49ers and the Bengals both make it to the Super Bowl, we are going to be a house divided, and it is going to be intense.
It'll be great.
It is.
That's what we can hope for.
I mean, I am not too confident after watching the Chiefs absolutely just put together an amazing performance against the Bills. That was the best football game I think I've ever seen.
Nice.
But yeah, the Bengals are going to have problems with this guy named Patrick Mahomes, who's a pretty darn good quarterback.
Great back pedal.
Yeah. Also, God, did you guys see Tyreek Hill, that number 10? Did you watch the Chiefs game?
I haven't watched a football game in about 7 or 8 years. So
This was the first one I had watched in a while. Was the Bengals too recently as they've
good.
gotten better. I mean, the Bengals last 2 seasons before this were like 2-14 and 4-12 or whatever. It was a rough couple years before Joe Burrows came around. But yeah, it's they have the fastest human being I've seen on a football field. This kid Tyreek Hill, who is insanely fast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and just from a
always wanna
nerdy
see
PT point of view, he's incredible to watch.
Don't you always want to see these guys like run on the track?
Oh, I would
See
love.
what they can do.
I would love to see Tyreek Hill just take 4 years and be like, dude, you're gonna win the 100-meter in the Olympics. Like, just work on it.
They usually, I mean, some of them do that, and they usually do
Yeah.
okay, but they don't usually kill, like they don't win it.
No,
but
they'll
they
just like
usually do
jump
okay.
into a race and they'll be like a 10-2 guy, 10-3 range guy,
Get
which
out
is great.
well and-
yeah.
yeah.
And then I mean, you think, God, if this guy could focus on this for a little bit, he'd be so good.
I think that's the thing is there's so much form to the sprinting stuff. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
they need to focus on
I
it
mean,
for a while.
point one wins and loses
Right?
races.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
What about your Lakeside Long Run on Saturday? How was that?
Felt great. We're doing it. Jake Stout's been running with us recently, but he didn't make it. It was me, Josh, and Micah Goff. Some of the high schoolers want to come out and do it with us, but they need to, I think some of them are trying to build up their mileage before they jump into 14-mile tempo runs.
Yeah.
But
Why is it 14-mile tempo?
so what we do is I really don't. The more and more I look into this, I do not like, for my training, the idea of long, slow runs. I have to have a little bit more value in my run training, and I really don't see any value in a 14, 15-mile long run when I'm not training for Ironman right now without an actual specific tempo. So, we start with 14 miles, 30 minutes at this time the lakes felt great. We just were cruising at like 5:20 low, which was good for 6 miles.
The last 30 minutes or the middle
30, and then after that I was trying to, the original plan was like,
that's good.
we'll hold like 6:30
good.
right after that, but we got talking and just
Yeah. fine.
whatever. So, but yeah, no, the runs come along well. Trying to hit 60 a week for a little bit,
Oh, it's good.
see if that can carry in some good half marathon fitness. So
Yeah, that's right. When's that race coming up?
5 weeks away, 6 weeks
5
away,
weeks
something
away?
like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It used to be, I feel like that.
It used to be the first week of February. Now it's the last,
Okay.
which I'm fine with because it might be a little bit warmer.
Beaver Freezer?
No, that's the
Oh no, I'd love to race Beaver Freezer again one day. but
Vancouver
no.
Lake half marathon.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
talking. Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
I was looking at
that
something else then.
triathlon. Yeah,
If we have good weather, Jake and I will just bike out there and heckle. We can heckle you.
Oh, please
would
heckle
be awesome.
loudly. As I'm getting dropped from that lead group, just keep on yelling like, Evan, you're not a real runner. Those guys are real
Those guys.
runners.
Look at those guys. Maybe you don't have enough carbon fiber in your shoes.
Look at the Bowerman jerseys. They're running the new Nikes. That's the only reason that they're...
Sweet. I don't really have much to backpedal. My backpedal is
Go Bengals.
I rode a single speed, so they did
What?
No, a fixie,
Oh, nice.
a fixie. Those don't have a backpedal, right?
Oh,
Ba-dum-bum,
back pedal.
ba-dum-bum.
There you go. No back pedal. Fixed gear.
I rode.
Did you really ride a fixie this last week?
No, I
Oh,
rode.
okay.
I was just Fixie would.
I've tried to ride one of those before. That's not easy. That's not easy to ride.
They are fun.
It's like riding
Yeah.
a Peloton bike,
I
right?
can't do downhills on them because I don't know how to.
Oh God, I don't know what to do
Those
with my
bike
legs.
messengers, how they ride those things through the city and like use that to
Amazed.
skid stop and fly around cars. It's impressive what they
It
can
is.
do. So that's probably
Yeah.
why those guys are so good on the track. No, I
Yeah.
just rode on Zwift 5 days, and I did 1 day of rowing, and that was about
I
it.
saw the road day.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit better than the first time.
It did. I'm definitely backing off, and I've done what you had suggested. I think it was 3 weeks ago of just integrating in some sprints, or
Yep.
not sprints, but some intervals. That helped. I'm not doing as many as you had prescribed. I think I need to work my way into that
Work
a little
into
bit more.
it.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely not as cranky when I'm done. But it's
good.
definitely feeling.
And as you do it more too, you'll probably start to realize like what actual 100-meter pace is reasonable for you too.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
like being a cyclist, you're going to go. I know Cassie always talks about this too. Is like cyclists have such good just aerobic base fitness and leg strength that they get themselves in trouble on rowers.
Yeah.
Because they forget that like, oh yeah, it's a whole body and core workout too. So then they leave with like, oh my God, my shoulders and stomach are toast, and their low back's killing them because they're like, well yeah, your legs were writing checks that like the rest of your body had no business cashing. So
Yeah, I can sympathize with that for sure. So anyway, that was my week, and I didn't get to ride out the side this past weekend because I was on daddy daycare, watching kids all weekend. Matt can sympathize with that
Yes.
because I think he was doing the
aren't
same
they like
thing.
in their
Was.
20s now? Can't they just watch themselves?
I
How old
wish.
is Ethan now? Like
Not a
18?
wish, but
Yeah, he's like 18 going on 30.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah,
Put him in charge.
Wife was out of town with my oldest at a soccer tournament for my oldest. My oldest is our babysitter
was
when
gonna
we're
say,
not
so
around.
there's the
So
babysitter.
there's dad. So
Yeah, Kristen went to Alabama. She was on the.
Oh, really?
She was
Nice.
she was on TV, SEC Network. My parents were like,
Wait, seriously?
yeah. She was like, my parents called me and they were like, Kristen, we just saw Kristen on TV. I was like, well, she's in Tuscaloosa for
Yeah.
the Alabama gymnastics reunion thing. It was 20 years since she won a national championship.
Kristen won a national championship, and I didn't know this.
There's so much you don't know.
You never told me. I know you told me like, oh, she was good at gymnastics, but you're like, oh, she was a national champion.
She was an 11-time All-American.
Jeez.
Wow.
Oh my
I know,
gosh.
right? I'm like, I just figured that. I just found that out
So it's
when
changing
I saw
everything.
the interview because they were.
How
like,
did you
11
just
time-
find that out?
Well, they said it in the interview. They were like 11
Yeah.
time All American, and Kristen was like, "Oh, it's 11." I was like, "Cause you just you lose count at that point. And you have so many. You
But
just
this is
lose count.
anybody who knows Kristen too. Like she's so unassuming and humble
Yeah.
about everything. She would be the one who, like, in
I have to tell-
conversation.
I
you-
have to bring it up. I'm always
Yeah.
like, by the way, you're talking to an NCAA champion here. You just
Yeah.
pay a little respect, kiss the
my
rings.
gosh.
You know,
And this is somehow we know that you had like this,
You know all about me.
subpar collegiate
Yeah.
like cross country career.
One
And meanwhile,
time-
your wife was a national champion.
one time after I got lapped on the track by the real runners, that's how every conversation goes. When
I wasn't national
the glory
championship, but I
days.
did get lapped by one once.
Yeah, it's very true, actually.
But you were a high school state champion.
You were a high
State.
school state
Alabama,
champion.
so it only counts for
That's 1/50th as good as Kristen was.
yes.
Awesome. Hey, Champ Bailey is not here.
Cool.
Evan Bailey's that doesn't work.
No,
Just not the
no.
same.
I mean, really, our only lead out news because we are smack dab in the middle of the
Oh.
off season right now.
Champ
Is
Price.
Do we have any? Do we have any like bummer news from
Bailey.
track that we want to talk about, or not track?
Track from cycling.
cycling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out, everybody will have heard this. I'm sure there'll be a lot more
Did this
information.
just happen this morning?
It happened earlier today. Egon
Oh, that's
Bernal
why- okay.
went into the back of a bus and just
Hard.
got destroyed. He's in the hospital. He's having surgery, all kinds of broken bones, and sounds like torn muscle. There was some laundry list of a report that the hospital confirmed, but it sounded like there was some thoracic and cervical fractures as well, and lower limb fractures, and
Okay.
it was just a long list of things. So
We were just talking about this off air. I'm putting my money on as long as he has no significant nerve damage and that muscle tear is not a complete tear, I still think he'll be at the tour. If that was a complete tear and he's got any nerve damage,
So that's
Then no.
akin to a movie. Have you seen Dumb and Dumber before?
oh yeah, absolutely.
So
Love
you're
Dumb and
saying
Dumber.
there's a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance, exactly. No, if this was one of us here.
Yeah.
It's like no, we're done for 2022. Like going back her up.
I think he's in big trouble. I think that's a serious crash. And
Yeah, I
don't
think he's done
coming
for
back.
22. I think that's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of rehab, and
Which is a
hopefully
real
it's
shame
not-
because he was in some great fitness from what you were hearing
just
in the off
signed a
season.
new contract with Ineos last week for what was it, 3 or 5 years or something like that, and I'm sure he got paid.
Perfect timing for him.
He
to
was
just
really
take a
the
little
only
break.
hope we had for a break from Slovenian dominance too. So
Slovenian dominance.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Do you think
look like that's going to be
Cycling contracts are guaranteed.
I
from
bet they
injury?
aren't.
From injury.
There's so much corruption. That goes
So
on
if he's
these
out
teams.
on if he's out on a training ride and
They
he
may have some
crashed,
sort of clause where it's like if you don't make it to, 8 out of 40 races.
Yeah.
There might be some sort of
Or
clause
if you're
in
out
there.
snowboarding and you crash and you hurt yourself, that's on you kind of thing. But
I bet you if he's on a bike and he crashes, I bet you there's coverage for that.
Especially if it's a team training ride.
And I
would
bet you
think.
he has insurance for exactly this situation.
It'd be
Some
fun. I
sort.
mean,
and
it'd be
Ineos
interesting.
may put out in like their own insurance. On
that's a
their
good call.
riders.
Yeah, that's probably
Mhm.
totally correct. So what do you think? He's going to go over to Israel Startup? Go ride with Frumi?
Oh,
Sorry.
this is like the
Too soon?
injured.
go wrap up Mike Wood's career over
Yeah.
there. Poor
Oh.
Mike Woods. If Bernal comes over there, he's like, Mike, you're ready to be the GC guy. Oh, never mind. We just signed Bernal.
I hope he's okay.
I do hope
really
he's okay as well.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like he hurt his neck.
Yeah.
I just hope.
I
It's
mean,
scary stuff.
I'm not an
Yeah.
Egon Bernal fan, but I don't dislike him. I think that he's
I
a
like him.
fantastic. I'm just,
I like
yeah.
the guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like a nice guy. I'm just like I'm tired of Ineos still a
Yeah.
little bit.
Are you?
So-
I've never had that much of a problem with Ineos. I get that
I had more of a
people
problem with
hate-
Sky than this version of Ineos.
Yeah, there was some sketchy stuff, but like
Yeah.
I still think like I don't know. I feel like the whole Sky thing. I think it's hard to like a team that wins all the time.
Yeah. It's like
Maybe
the
Jumbo-
Patriots.
Yeah,
Like
Jumbo-
nobody likes the Patriots, you know.
Do you think Jumbo Visma's gonna be that way?
They're starting to look that way.
We only like them
Right.
because of Sepkus.
Right?
That's the main reason. Like in America, we're like, yeah, Jumbo Visma, the underdogs. Like, no, they're not. They're like clearly have a massive budget. and,
Roglic
like,
is
yeah.
pretty good dude too.
I think that they
I think
just
people like
they look
Roglic,
like
yeah.
a good team that cares about each other.
Yeah, there's a little
not
bit more
like-
personality to them,
They're
maybe.
they're not all like superstars. I mean they
Yeah.
are superstars, but they're not like, look at me. Forget about the rest of my team. I'm this.
Yeah,
They
and it-
seem to work.
And I know this
They
sounds
chill, I
bad,
mean,
but I
yeah.
really never liked Tommy D. So for me, as soon as
Yeah.
Tommy D kind of left the team, it made me like Jumbo Visma a
Well,
little bit more.
he's back, and he's back in a big way.
Is he back
He's
now?
coming back,
Oh,
and
dang it.
but here's the thing: he was having a lot of like just mental stress,
health issues,
Yeah, exactly. So he has gone on the record though and said that Roglic really helped him out with that quite a bit and helped put things into perspective. And
Roglic is a robot. That
he
guy is.
credits Roglic with his return to cycling and having a renewed passion for it and
Yeah.
like just wanting to go get it done. So
Yeah, because Roglic just look at this. He's like, if I'm going to beat Pogacar, I need maybe the best time trialist of our generation to be like ready to go and still riding strong. So
yeah. So and that team got
seems
a
to
little
be a
bit
leader.
stronger too.
he seems to be a good like. I think that Roglic has that leader quality in him, definitely.
So Rohan Dennis has joined them too. Did you know that?
Oh my god.
Wow.
You know what his reasoning was?
What?
Because he was on Ineos.
Yeah, he was for a long
And he
time.
got sick and tired of watching Ineos copy everything that Jumbo Visma was doing. And he's like, if that's what they're going to do, I'll just and I have an opportunity, I'm just going to go ride for the best.
Yeah.
And he
That's weird.
viewed them
Now-
as the best, and he was tired of being on the copycat
Now,
team.
I obviously know none of these guys personally, but there is throughout cycling, news, you do hear Rohan Dennis is kind of a tough to get along with guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Jumbo Visma might want to be careful what their locker room
Yeah,
looks
but
like.
when
that's,
he was riding for Ineos, he was a good soldier.
Oh, he's a great soldier.
He was doing his job.
Yeah.
He wasn't giving anybody lip. He liked the bike well enough. What was
Yeah.
the team that he was on beforehand where he
oh yeah, you hated the bike and switch.
Meridian something?
Meridian, I think,
yeah,
or was it Orca Green? No, it was
Meridia
Orca.
or something like that.
Yeah,
And, like it got so bad that he started riding a BMC and he had the BMC logo taken off
Yeah.
so that he
yeah, which I thought was funny.
anyhow, good times.
But yeah, it's going to be a really fun cycling year if these teams all come together.
hope
I mean,
so.
like really, I think I'm just pumped for the classics. You got like Wout versus MVP, and then you hit the GC, and the GCs are going to be. It's going to be interesting to see. I like how there are two monster teams.
Yeah.
In the past, I mean, really, when you look at like the
But
Postal Blue Train, there was.
It could be a remake of last year.
It could be. It
I
could
don't
be.
think
Looks-
MVP is going to be mixing it up very much.
You don't think
Yeah,
so?
he's got some. Well, he just had a knee surgery, didn't he?
He had a knee surgery. It
I
was
know
minor.
his back's giving him.
But they
issues.
said in an article over the weekend that he's just been at home on the couch resting his back that has been really bothering him.
Oh man,
That's not good for the classics this spring.
Oh.
So
that's not good for the classics.
Come on.
I would venture to guess that he'll be training or racing himself into shape through the classics. So I wouldn't say that
Pidcock.
he's built a pretty stuff.
Did you see his schedule?
Yeah.
The guy is like, people are like, what's Pidcock racing? She's like, everything. Anything that you can think of, the guy's racing.
Wasn't he like defending his schedule recently? Like, yeah, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, exactly.
You're racing every weekend. I think there's a couple days where you're racing twice in the same day.
Yeah. Like, did you actually
Stupid.
look at the schedule? Or
You're
did you
stupid.
just sign up for all the
How are you
races?
going to be in two places at once, buddy?
I feel like he's that
back
like
there.
he's like that like amateur Cat 3 guy who's like, okay, to get my Cat 2 license, I'm just gonna race all
Everything.
the races, and hopefully a couple
Yeah.
of them I can get a good opportunity in.
Gotcha.
But how can you not love that? I'm cheering for this guy all year.
Sure.
He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he hasn't seemed like he's been much of a prima donna.
No,
I mean,
he goes out there and grinds. He's
seems like he's well respected amongst his peers. And
yeah, just a young, excited kid. You'll love to see that.
Yeah, we'll see.
cool. Stay tuned.
Yep.
When is the first race? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, the Tour de Dubai is usually or UAE Tour or whatever is.
Yeah,
isn't that usually
that's
the first?
usually the first thing.
They're out there racing in
Tour Down Under, but
155-degree
they
weather.
canceled the Tour Down Under,
I think
right?
I think so.
Well, for him, it's Cyclocross World Championships is next, right? But then
Arkansas.
there's
Oh, that's this weekend. It's
It
this
is.
coming weekend.
this
Yep.
weekend.
The women race on Saturday and
So
the
we're
men
gonna
race
have
on
cycling
Sunday.
news start
It's probably
next
where
week.
Lance is. He's probably heading over there. Can't seem to find him.
I know. He's probably. Do they get reception in Arkansas? Is that,
They're waiting on
Sorry to all of our
cellular
Arkansas
technology
listeners.
is
Yeah.
coming. It's coming.
Just a few decades
4G.
behind.
There's things take a little while to get down there.
All right. I think we'll call that a wrap on the lead out news. Let's jump into our topic for this week. I'm kind of outnumbered by a couple triathletes, and
It's a triathlon takeover.
they came over
It
here
is.
and started like throwing me around and kicking me and punching me and all
Exactly.
that stuff. And
We're a
said,
violent bunch.
We're gonna do like a mini triathlon takeover. I'm like, all right, just stop hurting me. So they're gonna give you their top reasons why people should give triathlon a shot, and they're gonna try these.
A try, as one might say,
Try the try.
with a Y.
So they're gonna throw these at me, and they're not gonna stick because I'm broken. But I'll try and speak very subjectively or objectively or both.
I was gonna say, just devil's advocate everything.
Why or why not? I would agree with you, but I'm gonna just go ahead and let you guys start. So
All right.
who
I got
wants to go first?
First one here. Mixing up your sports is good for your body because you can give different parts of your body a little bit of a break. Like you're doing a little bit of rowing right now, right?
I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a duathlon kind of thing. You get
Yeah.
a little bit of rowing, a little bit of biking.
It's worked for a
You're
man named
working
Scott,
your
clearly.
way.
Yeah.
You're working your way towards triathlon.
Yep.
But what's nice is like if you, let's say, hurt your Achilles or if you hurt your shoulder, like there's always something you can switch away to and just be
Yep.
like, all right, well, I'm going to focus on, swimming or running or biking or whatever it is. Like not always. There's usually a way to switch to some sport that's still
Yep.
making progress towards your goal of racing triathlon.
Okay, so I'm hearing two things in there. Like for starters, you can switch it up in terms of like your training, so you're not doing the same thing all the time. Which means like, all right, today I'm gonna run, but I'm not gonna run every single day. But tomorrow I'm gonna swim, and the day after that I'm gonna ride. Now, I'm going to object to that a little bit because it's good. It's good for the body. You're not doing the same linear thing, and you're getting a little bit more load on your body, which is good for, through wolf slots, good for
Bone health.
bone
Big
health,
thing,
and all
yeah.
that fun stuff.
When we're talking to cyclists specifically.
But
yeah.
if you want to be good at triathlon, you want to be competitive, and I'm one of those people.
Sure.
That's going to require way too much of my time. Way
Yes.
too much of my time.
Okay, so this is coming from someone who chose cycling.
Yeah.
The most time-consuming event of any
of
of
the
the
three.
three sports.
Yeah, of the three, definitely.
If you want,
raddest of the three.
okay, if
Yeah.
you want to like most time-efficient use, like start running, like right away. Like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
your sport. You just in the morning you could go 30 minutes and be done, and you could just grab your shoes and go out the door. No driving somewhere to the pool. No, like by the time you're ready to like go cycling, you could be done running.
Yeah. Imagine so elite cyclists, like if you're talking Cat
Yep.
1, Cat 2 guys, so not Egon Bernal. Cat 1, Cat 2 guys, your long days, you're putting in 5-6 hours on the bike.
True.
Usually at minimum if you're really trying to race like Cat 1, Cat 2.
But I'm not trying to be Cat 1 or Cat 2. I was Cat 2 for a
But
moment there.
Your
but
argument was that
That you wanted to be
three
competitive.
sports,
Yeah.
the three sports took too much time.
it does.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Now Matt, even guys racing marathons, what was your longest run workout?
It's only like 2
2
hours.
hours.
How many hours a
hours.
week are you putting into running?
8 to 10 at the top end.
Okay. And then how many hours are you putting in swimming?
Okay,
we're,
well,
we're
this
talking-
is-
we're switching over back.
Yes.
to
Okay,
triathlon.
yeah.
We're going back to triathlon. I'm not trying to become a runner,
I
but-
think somebody can be really fast in the sport of triathlon. Now, this depends on the person because, like we're talking about, is I know somebody could be listening to this and say, like, well, I train 10 hours a week and I'm not that fast. But there's like, you can be between 10 to 14 hours a week, which is what your good cyclists train, and be a very good triathlete still.
I think that
If you want to be an elite triathlete, you got to be closer to 20 mark.
But don't you think that elite triathletes really don't put any more time into training than like an elite cyclist? I think they're probably
pretty
very
close.
similar because
It's very close.
because you don't have that as much impact because you can switch sports
Yep.
for triathlon or whatever. Same for cycling. So you basically it's just like maximum you can do
Mm-hmm.
is what you
Yeah.
kind of want to do.
And this is why, so when we're talking about cycling specific injuries and quote unquote overuse injury, I kind of hate the term overuse, but overuse injuries in cycling, it's similar to running. When I was just watching this awesome interview where Ari Clow was talking about this, when they're like, what was the biggest benefit of triathlon for you when you switched over from trying to go into pro running? And he said at that time
From
that
pro running to try?
Yeah.
From collegiate running to try or whatever.
collegiate running to try, but he was on that path to try and go pro running. He realized for him that, hey, at the top end, I was able to tolerate maybe 10 hours of running a week when he was healthy, which for runners doesn't happen that often. They get injured decently frequently of the three sports. And now he's training 20 hours a week, a more aerobic base. So really giving himself a bigger aerobic engine to work from for less miles of running a week. Same as a cyclist when you're like, man, I really want to be a Cat 1-2 cyclist and be fast. Okay, I got to train 18 to 20 hours a week just on the bike. It's like, okay, you can go into triathlon with that same aerobic base that you just built in cycling, same amount of training a week, but now you're only riding 10, 12 hours a week and you get to mix it up. So it's more of a plea to burnt out cyclists. There's a
true.
sport that you can go and do. That
So
will
if
not
I want to be a
require that.
competitive Cat 2-3, like equivalent Cat 2-3 cyclist, that's going to be for me. Like that's 10 to 15 hours
10
a week
hours, at
on
least.
the bike. 10 minimum, 15 max for me, with the exception of a few other spikes or whatever throughout the course of the year. Like if I want to be the equivalent of that in triathlon, how much time is that taking me? Like here's an example. Like
I think it'd be fine doing
12
this.
hours a week.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that much different.
30 miles
just-
running,
but don't you think you could-
6 to 8 hours biking, and
How
like
much- I
10K
think-
swimming?
how much time does Josh Mondo or Scott Goodrich put in? I know Josh is
Josh
kind of
is-
following with you, and he's an alien as well when it comes
Well,
to
and,
that kind of stuff.
and Josh may not, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be. You
He
know
might
what?
be taking a pro card.
I
at
was
some
going to say,
point in time
I'm
in
just
the
going to
future.
say this on the air because I know that I just want to put pressure on him just for fun since I train with the guy all the time. He did qualify for his pro card. Now, he will not be taking it, and he's going to race Kona this year.
Yeah.
But, Josh even trains, really when we're on the same train plane, Josh sneaks in probably one more hour than I do a week. Josh is consistently hitting like 22 to 24. That's
not
pro
cat,
ranks.
That's not Cat
That's
2,
pro
Cat
ranks.
3 cyclist.
Cat 2, Cat 3 cyclists, I think you're closer to that 12 to 15 hour range.
So
I
like,
think here's the thing. I think Josh can pretty much win any little local race that he
absolutely.
wants to, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that I just don't think it
He's a-
translates to cycling.
He's
as-
a top 6 guy in any Ironman race he's going to jump into.
So here's the thing: like, if a cyclist here could pretty much win any race in the kind of area, local race kind of scene stuff, like not on the national scene, but like that's winning the Cat 1 race, right? Like winning overall for triathlon. Like, that's different than say like a Cat 2-3 person, right? There may be, if you were to put them in the overall,
I don't know.
Would they
I would
be?
say that you would probably equate Josh to a Cat 2-3 guy because he's racing age group as opposed to racing in the pro field with Evan here locally.
Would you say like a Cat 1 is like a semi-pro guy basically then?
Yeah, probably.
Like national scene semi-pro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that, but
Well,
keep
just
moving.
because at least in the cycling world now with how sparse road racing is, if you're Cat 1, I mean, you're looking at trying to get a contract somewhere or
Gotcha.
something.
Matt, how many
trying
hours
to
a week
jump in.
were you putting in when you were training for your last Ironman?
I
I know that Ironman's a different beast than like.
I did
Yeah,
do
this is
a
where we
lot.
gotta take a-
yeah, I mean, I would probably like
What were your biggest biking weeks, Matt?
biking weeks. That's
Yeah.
a good question. I don't know. I'd have to look about it.
Did you
but
get
I
over
know-
10 hours consistently?
I don't know. I'd have to
Okay.
look. Probably over 10 hours of cycling alone.
Because I know you were doing centuries somewhat frequently.
Pretty much centuries on the weekend, and then Mondays were 40 or 50, I think.
Yeah, we used to do those
Yep.
beaches rides all the time.
Yeah.
You're already up to 7 hours there at least. So yeah, you were.
It
you
was
were at
definitely
10
over
hours.
10.
Yeah.
And I think my bigger weeks were well into the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I did some pretty big weeks when I was peaking for
Yep.
Ironman training.
And
But I
these are
don't
guys going for Kona. So when you're going
Yeah.
for Kona, even as an amateur over the full distance, you're
It's a lot of
you're
hours.
trying just many hours.
What
as I
about
am
somebody
in
like a
week.
Scott Goodrich?
Scott's probably
He's-
right up there.
He's
Right up
Scott,
there.
He's going.
Yeah.
He's going to
Scott's
Kona.
a Kona guy. So yeah, I think that Scott training with Chris Beck. Chris Beck's pretty efficient in
His timing.
his timing. Chris works really well around people's schedule. Chris coaches a lot like I do, where it's like we coach busy professional people, like with kids and all that. So I really think if you're somebody with 2 kids and a job and you're in your 40s and you're like, I want to be fast, then you're that Cat 3 guy, let's say. You can be fast even over the full Ironman distance at 14, 15 hours a week. If you're like, hey, I just want to really crush local Olympic races 12 hours a week, because if you get a coach who can be specific with you, 12 hours. Now, me and Matt both agree on this, and I never tell this to people I coach, but the bottom line is more's usually better.
It's true, and people hate that.
Oh, they
people
do.
Hate that.
Well, because people don't really want to hear like the hard work. Yeah, it's like
I'm sorry, but like
a
a lot
they
of zone
watch.
2, a lot of zone 2 stuff actually works.
Absolutely, it does.
Volume is,
If you told me you're like, hey, I work from home 20 hours a week and I want to be really fast, I'm like, cool. You're training 24 hours a week if you can tolerate it. Now, we don't jack up the running because that's where it's like, oh, you need to have changes. But like if you have the availability to ride 12, 14 hours a week on the bike, cool, we're doing it because you're going to get faster.
Yep.
Yeah.
It does help. Volume works.
Yeah.
I know. I do like the second part of what you were talking about because if something does go wrong, you've got something to fall back on. And I think that there's a lot to be said with cross training as well. Like the stupidest thing that I ever did was rode 501 days in a row. That was the absolute dumbest thing I ever did. And I shouldn't have ever done. I mean, it was cool.
Yeah.
But from a functional standpoint, not at all. And I should have
even with everything you got going on, probably like a jog or two in there would have been great for your system to like take a break from the poor bike.
But I do like the notion of like mixing up like swimming because I think that that's fantastic for your body. And I've watched my wife go through that firsthand. That that's helped her solve a lot of ailments that she was having. So swimming is a good thing to
and for somebody like, I mean, I think between you and Becky, your guys' aerobic genes are clear. I mean, you got two people with aerobic genes there. Becca's tapped into that now without running into running injuries frequently because she can swim, she can bike, and she's got that aerobic base engine where now she's not. I always joke that sometimes the chronically injured runners are people who'd make great triathletes because they have a really good aerobic base that gets them in trouble all the time. Mm-hmm. So they have that like aerobic gene where they're like, you start running and there's no secret that like people who love running do have a dopamine and endorphin.
Sure.
They love it.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to convince yourself at 40 minutes into a run that you're like, I can go another hour. Yeah.
Better go another hour.
I can go do another out and back. Now your Achilles or your foot or your knee may not be able to cash that check, but
So I'll speak for all the people that aren't doing triathlons. You guys have some points there. The first part of that one, injury still a little bit out, but good one. Let's move on to the next point. What's your next point, Evan?
My point is that I actually just love the community of triathlon.
Yeah.
I think it's a super fun community because I think in some ways it's incredibly dorky, but in other ways it brings kind of the best parts of what I love about the running world, what I love about the cycling world, and what I never learned as a kid from the swimming world. So,
it's way more inviting for sure than the cycling world.
It is.
I think that there's people that are going to be willing to just help you. Like you're setting up your bike, I can help you. Yeah. Like just anyone
and this
could help
is
you with that.
Yeah, and this is
your
where
teammates would potentially do that on the road. But if you're new to, any of these things, I think it's easier to be new to triathlon than it is potentially than to be new to road cycling.
Yeah, because I think in theory, road cycling, people say like, oh, you just get the bike and you get in. But having been somebody who's raced on the road and been in those pelotons, it's not to me that the cycling world wasn't welcoming because some of my most awesome friends I've ever met have all been road cyclists. Right. And some of my best memories growing up. But I will say it's tough for the true beginner to get comfortable in a peloton because it takes practice, it takes skill, and it really does take kind of a grit to it too. And I'm not saying that triathlon is a softer sport because it is hard as crap, but there's a little bit more welcoming into, I
think it's softer.
You can get into your own groove. Hey, let the swim pack go. Then you swim on your own.
Yep.
Get on the bike. You're on your own. It's not this. This is what I love about road cycling is what I would say makes road cycling not as welcoming is, all right, the peloton's going and they're going fast now. You better hang with them or you're going to be spending the rest of the race by yourself.
Or you're by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And hey, don't bump into me or I'm going to yell at you. And that's that's just how it is. That's what I love about road cycling, but that's also what I think makes it tough for entry for some.
Yeah.
Triathlon is not that. Triathlon is, hey, let's go have fun. Just make it to the finish line, and then we're having beers and burgers right after. Like that's your local racing. Get your medal. Have a blast.
Celebrate. I mean, there's
this is
good,
why I
good
love
parts
it.
and bad parts about that, but yeah.
Now triathlon at the very top, I will say at the very top still has that.
Oh yeah.
That gritty road cycle thing to it because I will say even though guys at the top of these races and I've
Especially in the
been
swim,
in local
don't you think?
range. Oh yeah. Like we might joke around with people after and congratulate everybody after, but during that race we want to murder each other. Like that is absolutely the case. When the swim starts, you want to beat somebody's face in, and then same
cycling
thing.
almost reminds me of like the pointy end of triathlon.
It does.
Some ways.
It's a very similar world.
But what's nice is like no matter how like pointy end you are, how fast you are in triathlon, you're still going to be nice to the slowest person out there.
Oh, and you should be. And if you're not,
triathlon.
everybody will hate you because
it's weird if you're not.
Nobody likes the triathlon.
And I just don't think that there's not that athlete that like that does a road biking event and like got off and walked up the hills. Like they just don't go. They don't go to races, but they do go to triathlon races.
Yeah.
So it's more inviting and it's more inclusive.
Yeah.
Plus, they don't mind Evan wearing his Speedo and his dolphin shorts,
Exactly.
right?
They don't care.
You can be
Wear whatever you
that's and that's the great part about triathlon. You can come in as dorky as possible. I mean, like we all have those stories of like nobody comes in on like a nice TT bike in their first races.
No.
I raced in bib shorts my first race. Like that was you can
good race.
clearly tell what sport each person comes from when they
Yeah.
come in. You have Matt probably like on what was your very first triathlon? Did you do flat pedals?
No.
Oh dang it! I was so hoping you were like in running shorts too. I was
Totally,
like,
right?
hey, I bet
Yeah.
he does cross country.
Yeah. You're like, I wonder where that guy came from.
Swam in the cross country
Yeah.
shorts too.
Oh yeah. When I did start swimming, I wore running shorts because I wore running shorts all the time. I used
Yeah.
to like sleep in them and just like
Grew up in them. Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, the road cycling, there's definitely not issues there, but that's more like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's got problems.
do or
It's
die,
gritty,
you know,
yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of a thing.
Well, I
that-
mean, I'm reading a biography on Tom Simpson right now.
Yeah.
Road cycling is the world where a guy literally died on a bicycle, like
Yeah.
killed himself. He was trying so hard. Like
wow.
you really don't hear about that in triathlon. Like, yes, I mean we hear the stories like crawling to the finish line in
Some of
Kona
that.
it's like
at the very tippy end, but yeah, it's
there are certain charity rides out there that it's a charity ride. Your goal is to start and to finish, and a lot of times they'll do it like holding hands and singing "Kumbaya" together. But
Triathlon has more of that vibe.
It
yeah,
does.
and there are some of those
that's like the
events where
75 percentile.
they'll give you a time
We might,
chip.
be, we might be turning people off of triathlon. We're supposed to be doing the opposite.
We're like, hey man, kumbaya, and just yeah.
But like, you know, STP for example, that's Seattle to Portland.
Yeah.
They do.
That's got
it's
an awesome vibe to
It's
it.
got an awesome vibe, and it's 10,000 people to go out and do that ride. So a lot of people, it's just to finish. You just want to get from point A,
Most people,
Seattle,
Yeah.
to B, Portland.
99% of the people that do that are just doing
Which
it to
is
finish.
STP is a good like if somebody
maybe
was to
not
say like,
top
hey, you know, if they were only road cycling and
Yeah.
they were like, hey, describe what a triathlon vibe is to me, I'd be like STP. There you
Yeah,
go.
kind of,
That's yep, same idea.
So 10,000 people, and of the 10,000, 3,000 of them do it in one day, 206 miles in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then of the 3,000 people doing it one day, 300 of those people will put on a timing chip, and they will see how fast they can do
so
the
what-
entire route.
So what percentage of the whole group is that? That's
3%.
3%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
three.
and I'm
So
one of those
3% the
3%.
group.
But
yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
even of
everybody
that,
at this table would be somebody who'd slap a
Yeah.
time chip on and just go.
a lot
for
of those people too are just trying to better their time from last year. They're not trying to
Yeah, that's
finish in the
cool.
top 10, and
Uh-huh.
that part I like that. I think that's kind of
cool
cool how they
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like about fondos as well, because you will have fondos where people are
Mm-hmm.
going out just to do it, to do the ride and to enjoy it and to soak it up, and then there's going to be people at the point end of that that are going to be racing it, but
Yep.
it's still kind of a cool vibe.
Oh yeah, because fondos even have time segments.
Yeah,
and
and
people
then you
take
go-
those time segments very
Yeah.
seriously.
And then you go out and you do a road race, like a proper road race. We'll just say it's like 60, 70 miles. You get
Yeah.
out there and you're riding. And if you get dropped and you're outside of the caravan, guess what, pal? You're all on your own.
You are,
You
yeah.
are unsupported. If you get a flat, you're going to have to make your way
Yep.
back. And you could
Yep.
be 15, 20 miles away and there's nobody there to help you.
Yeah.
They're not,
Yeah.
I mean, they should, if it's a good race promoter, be sweeping the course when it's all said and done and be keeping track of numbers. But at the end of the day, you're still responsible for yourself. And that kind of sucks sometimes, you know.
does.
And
It
there's,
does.
there's people that are trying to drop you. They're trying to make you go away, and you can't. You're not
Yeah.
good enough. You can't hang with us. Get out of here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they will yell at you. So
Well, and this is the problem with road racing too. Is then you get, I mean, so you would think like, oh, okay, well, how do we solve that? Well, we have a 4-5 division, so don't
Yeah.
worry when in the 4, and then you have guys like cyclocross young kids who come in the 4-5 field. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the 4-5 field is just as fast as the 3 field, just
Yeah.
with younger guys who
they're
are
just
more
working
aggressive.
their way up. So
yeah.
and then like cyclocross, like you just mentioned, that's still aggressive. That's still like
Yeah.
fast,
Yep.
but the vibe there completely different than road.
fun.
You
Yeah.
know, it's a fun environment, and people
was-
are there and cheering you on, and it's a blast.
I agree. I was specific to say road cycling because I do think there's something different there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And that's a different animal than all of the
Yeah.
other.
And I
bike
mean,
racing
road cycling just has
disciplines.
a long, gritty history to it. And this is me being a cycling historian nerd, and this is
Yeah.
the books I read. But that's what steeps it, you know. And I mean, really look at the countries that these started. These are hard. I mean, Belgium. Like this is. I mean, you ever like I've known 2 Belgians in my entire life. And they were both cyclists, and they were both 2 of the toughest human beings ever. So I have a massive stereotype that everybody who rides a bike in Belgium
Sure.
Confirmed.
doesn't care if your knee hurts. Like that's like they don't care if you are really tired today. Like that's just the vibe of road cycling.
Well, here's another thing too, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but like road cycling, you've got your Cat 1-2s will usually race together, Cat 3s will race by themselves, and then Cat 4s and 5s will usually get lumped into each other in the same group, and then they'll break those out based on
Randomly
genders.
a
and all.
3-4 race every once in a while.
There's
Yeah.
sometimes 3, 4. It just depends on how many people come in. But you're looking at 3, maybe 4 different categories, and that's how they're going to break out the podium, and those races all start. Triathlon, you go out there, and there's 47 different
70
categories.
people won the race today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You won the 40 to 42-year-old bracket.
I
you know?
wish
Yeah.
I wish there was a nice in between. Because I
agree.
will say it gets a little bit annoying at triathlons when it's like
Everybody wins.
well, it's like
I mean,
with 5Ks these days too, where it's like,
Yep.
hey,
5
you
people in
comes
your
from running.
category.
yeah, I was like, you are on the podium of the 4 people in your race. It's like
the
neat.
duathlon stuff. You're like, why don't you race more duathlons? I'm like, because that.
Nobody races.
But you just got to
duathlon
make it
anymore.
cool, Matt. Create a YouTube channel about it.
no
Make
one.
it cool.
Just GoPro race the entire thing, and then everybody will be like, "This is cool."
I guess.
So I personally think that that's a little much. I mean, when
Yeah.
your field's 5 deep and you're saying that you landed on the podium,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, this is even
That's the thing. I just don't think you talk about how you landed on the podium if you.
It's
won,
the way
you know,
we
it's
talk
like-
about it and phrase it that
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah. Well, and this is did I ever tell you story of Florian, the French cycling friend of mine who came over here, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
we
Yeah,
did we did
yeah.
a
You told me
threes
about it
race, and
Yeah.
he was on the podium, and he was so confused because he knew we weren't in the P12 race,
yeah.
and people were asking him like, "Man, you were on the podium today, Florian," and he was like, "No, I wasn't." And they're like, no, really, you were like second in the sprint. He's like, nobody cares. He's like, that wasn't the P12 race. And he was talking about how in France, he's like, it's a mass start in France. He's like, when you say who won the race today, it's like one person raises their hand.
Yeah.
He's like, you Americans are so dumb because I say who won the race today and 20 people raise their hand.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, he makes a point.
No, I like the fact that we have different categories. You can go out and
I
race
think it
those
makes
things.
more sense
It
in their
doesn't-
races
and
when they mass start everybody. Yeah.
Exactly, because I mean, there's some people that just will never float to the top of that.
No.
I mean, they'll never even be in a Cat 1 or Cat 2 category. So, but
Or
to
what
give-
if you're a 52-year-old guy racing against 21-year-olds? It doesn't
Yeah.
make sense, but yeah.
So anyway, that's a little something there. All right, what else you guys got for me?
I gotta take off.
Matt's heading out, so I get to
Matt's got to take off. Huh?
I
Yep,
get to
I'm outta here.
commandeer this.
How about we put a pin in
Steal
this
it.
just for a second, Matt? You got one last thing for us?
I did put a YouTube video out comparing 945
I just
LTE
watched that
and
this
Saw that. I
945
haven't had a
watch.
chance to watch it yet.
Yeah.
Matt is also over 10K subscribers,
Yes.
closing in on 20K.
Yes, very close, very close. I was going to talk about this Brighton bike computer, but I mentioned it in the podcast last week, and they just never announced the watch, and I was like, you guys missed your own release date, so
Did they get back to you?
no. They haven't told me why.
Interesting.
And so I was going to release that video, but they haven't released the bike computer yet. Eventually, that video will come out. Brighton S500.
You got one more second that I can ask you one more question?
Sure.
What are your thoughts on SRAM buying Hammerhead?
Ooh, I think it's good. I think SRAM will do a good job. I think that the announcement, they say basically like they're going to do their own thing. They're going to run their own stuff. There will be some influence, right? Like
Sure.
they're going to take on the engineering projects that were probably on their list somewhere down the line anyway, about making sure like, hey, all of the shifting technology pieces are going to get prioritized, right? Like
Sure.
all the
Yeah.
showing your shifting, whatever the little digital pieces for showing where your shifting is. And then in the future, there's some really interesting concepts that could come forth, right? Like that could be the brains of the SRAM, wireless communication between, I don't know, what, even if they're doing like mountain bike stuff, like all of your, let's say, gear shifting, communicating with your shock system versus communicating with whatever else.
Dropper post and the
Who
whole,
knows, right? Because they own so many different
Yeah.
pieces of the pie. I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah,
So,
got
it could be
Quark
cool, though.
playing with them as well, and I mean that's a whole other thing that SRAM was. I mean, there's a lot of cool things that are going to come out of that. I saw that and went, "Ooh,
Ooh.
that's interesting. That's
Yeah.
well played." So
Yeah, I hope that everything stays like open standards, but they'll definitely be influenced to like prioritize stuff that is important to SRAM. So
yeah.
we'll see.
Now, who do you think is pushing the envelope more, SRAM or Shimano?
I think SRAM's pushing the innovation side of things more.
I would agree.
In my opinion. I think Shimano is a little bit more. I mean, this is a completely biased opinion based on all of my weird experiences, but it seems to me like Shimano doesn't come out with something unless it's like a little bit more perfected, and SRAM seems to be like, we're gonna try some stuff.
Yeah.
That's my kind of like overview of it all. So
Gotcha.
I don't know.
No, that's good
We'll see.
stuff. But I am very curious to see how that plays out.
Oh
So,
yeah,
thank you,
definitely
Matt.
interesting. Yep.
Got to
I
go
will
pick
talk
up
to
some
you guys-
kids.
No, I've got to go swim.
Oh yeah.
We need to
Sneak
swim
a
together
swimming.
soon.
Yeah, we really do.
We really do.
Yep. All right. Bye, guys.
All right, see you, Matt.
See ya.
All right, Evan, what else you got for me?
Okay, so
How about being outdoors and open water swimming?
oh yeah,
He loves stand-up paddleboarding.
I mean, this is where, honestly, the thing I love most about swimming is open water swimming. Open water swimming is amazing. Pool swimming is terrible. I really cannot advocate pool swimming for anybody, but staring at a black line all day can get exhausting. But what I will say from a purely training perspective is if you give, so something like running, if you look at it across the board, generally when people are doing VO2 work in running, you're talking about much more demanding VO2 testing. So historically, when people have done VO2 max testing, there is a little bit of a prejudice that you usually, if you are running, going to produce a little bit higher VO2 numbers.
Gotcha.
Milliliters per kilogram per minute. That's also because sometimes your runners are usually leaner. So when they do these studies in like elite guys, usually a little bit leaner build guys. Now, the highest VO2s ever recorded, we're talking about the very tippy top. We're talking cross-country skiers and cyclists are the top two.
Sure.
When you're talking in general during just VO2 testing, there's massive VO2 numbers tested in runners. So if you're thinking from purely a training standpoint, you can get a lot of aerobic benefit to your VO2 system from like 400 repeats as a runner.
Gotcha.
And this is where, I mean, think of, there's a long list I can point to in triathlon of guys who came from elite running and had zero to no cycling experience. And within 2 years, you strap them on a bike and they are fast. I mean, we're talking north of 5 watt per kilo guys in less than 2 years of training.
Is Mike Woods one of those?
Mike Woods is absolutely an example.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from an Olympic runner to, well, and then, I mean, you look at a guy like Roglic too.
True.
I mean,
Skier,
he came
yeah.
from skiing,
Yeah.
but, and yes, that was long jump skiing. Anybody who's looking, but I'm sure he was doing cross-country skiing
yeah.
as a cross trainer. I
Yeah.
guarantee he was. And I also know, I think Roglic did some running as a kid too. So another, my favorite example to point to is Lance Armstrong. His first sport was swimming. Then it was cross-country. Then it was biking. That guy built an aerobic engine that is for the ages. I mean, maybe the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest of all time, at least in the argument for that. And he started with triathlon. I mean, that was his sport to start with.
Yeah.
So I really do think if you're a cyclist that has hit a plateau, you're just not seeing improvements, you're a little burnt out on road racing, you're in a region where there may be no road racing, looking into, like, if you have any history of running or swimming in your past, looking into triathlon, it's a very competitive amateur. I mean, like me and Josh joke all the time. Some of the faster guys in the country right now for triathlon are still racing amateur.
Really?
Like, oh yeah, Jan Stepinski, Eric Angle, Andrew Hall. Those are all really, really fast amateurs that if they jumped into a pro field right now, they'd be consistent top 10 guys.
Why aren't they doing it?
Because you, especially when you have a career job too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I talk about this on this podcast all the time, making $0 off triathlon.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, outside of that, triathlon is what I do as a PT too.
Sure.
It's most of the people I treat and also most people I coach.
Yeah.
For my own racing, I don't make any money. So it's not something like cycling where you can just join a team and start making money right away.
So do they like having more autonomy and not being held to like, oh my gosh, I'm a pro and I've got to train and compete?
And our race schedule sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
it's our race schedule is not deep right now. So
Yeah.
if you're an amateur, there's a lot more competitiveness in the Kona amateur race.
Yeah.
So the full Ironman World Championship race, the top 10 guys in that are all bona fide pros, in my opinion. Those amateurs are very, very strong.
Okay.
But to them, there's more, I don't know, accolades than just going and being a mid-pack pro versus winning Kona. Like,
Gotcha.
if you won Kona, people don't ask, like, wait, was that the pro field? They're like, no, you just say, I'm the amateur. Just say that real quick. Kona champion. There you go.
All right, I got a question for you. Do you think being a triathlete for the course of time is sustainable? I hear of so many people that will go in and they'll say, I want to do an Ironman, or I want to go to Kona, and I want to do all these things. They go, they do it, they get it done in like 3 or 4 years, and then
Burnt
they walk
out.
away from the sport because they're burnt out because it just takes so much out of you.
Yeah.
Or through the process of doing all that, through the training that they need to do, they break down usually on the run.
Yeah.
But I mean, other things could happen. And then they say that they're done with the sport. I don't necessarily see that being as problematic with cycling. I see a lot more people sticking with the sport. Now, their desire to race might ebb and flow a little bit, but on the whole, it's something that they stick to, and they do it, and they might go race for 3 or 4 years strong, 5 years, and they might take a year or 2 or 3 off, and then all of a sudden they get that itch again, and they're going to go back out there and do it. Does that happen in triathlon or?
Yeah, so what I see in triathlon as an issue. So first with cycling, I actually see quite a few triathletes switch over. They're like, I just want to bike.
Yeah.
And it's usually I just want to bike. It's very rarely when they're like, I just want to run. No, because that's
Yeah.
most of your triathletes. If I'm looking at the grand average of the age group crew, are actually people who really did not come from swimming, running, or biking.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually people who came from like, hey, I played football as a kid, I played soccer as a kid, I played basketball. Plenty of people where they're like, I was absolutely not an athlete as a kid, which is
Yeah.
actually some of the people I even know personally and coach in there, which is really the cool part of triathlon. But
Yeah.
what I think triathlon's problem is that the races are based off of finishing.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, people in today's social media environment want to do something that's cool. They want to do something they can kind of pound their chest and raise their arms. Everybody does.
Hey, Ma, look what I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Regardless of how humble we all try to be, that's what everybody wants to do.
Yeah.
In the cycling world, and this is why I like road racing, is nobody cares. And that kind of showboatiness gets really shoved away in road cycling. And that's what I was taught in road cycling at a young age was, especially for a guy like me, hey, Evan, you're never going to win a race. You're garbage at finishing races. You're going to sit on the front and pull. There's no glory in that.
Yeah.
I was the guy in the Cat 3 field that was like, oh yeah, Evan took a 15-minute pull there in the middle and nobody cares.
Yeah.
I could have great power numbers and nobody cares, which was a great lesson to learn as a kid that nobody cares. The problem is in triathlon, Ironman has done a great job of marketing the glorious moment of crossing the finish line.
Yeah.
Now, what I try to tell people I'm coaching is that an Ironman does not make you a triathlete. But for whatever reason in triathlon, we think that that's the be-all, end-all.
Mm-hmm.
And an Ironman is a really long, brutal day. So a lot of people who have no business trying to get through that day will try to get through that day. And they're tough people, so they get through it. And it's awesome. On that day, it's amazing. I love watching it. I'm like, hey, human spirit's great. If that person, you know, I love nothing more than watching Kona and watching the like overweight mom of 3 who just wanted to get fit and get healthier trudge across the finish line there, just shattered at the end.
Cut off 16 hours, correct? If I'm not mistaken.
So
seeing-
17. Yeah.
So seeing them come across at like 16:45, and then
Just amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, you watch that, and I think every single time, like, I couldn't do that. Like, if it was hurting as bad as it's hurting for that person right there, I'd give up 6 hours ago. But the problem with that is that takes a lot out of you.
Oh, yeah.
A ton out of you. And yes, absolutely. I think you see in gobs and gobs of people just quitting after that because it's like, you get to that point, you're like, all right, what's next?
Yeah.
It's not like road racing. Like, could you imagine if road races were like, do you want to sign up for the Ironman road race? Oh, it's a 400-mile road race.
Yeah,
How many people do you think would keep on road racing after making it through something like that? They'd be like, you know what, I'm done. Like, this is as far as I'm going to go.
Yeah. I mean, there is some diversity with triathlon. You've got, the different lengths and whatnot, and there is the Xterra, the off-road stuff. But on the whole, if you compare that to cycling, there's not nearly as many different disciplines of different kinds of bike racing and riding that you can do. So, I mean, I think that's where cycling might have an edge up or a leg up on you guys. I
wish there was more promotion of, and I think this is changing a little bit. I wish there was more promotion of, hey, make yourself as good as you can at the Olympic distance. Mm-hmm. And there was cool race venues where you could go to and, like different Olympic races throughout the country. And I think that there are, but it's still just the way Ironman has marketed it is that it's like, you're not a triathlete unless you get through the full. And it's funny because I talk to so many of us pros are like, yes, there are the guys who really specialize in that long distance and they do it well.
Yeah.
But a ton of us are like, we never raced a full and really don't have a desire to. Like, I'm going to at some point because I realize that my days of being really fast in the shorter distance are numbered now.
Yeah.
But like, I know so many guys that like the draft legal guys who in my opinion are the best pro triathletes in the world. None of them would touch a full iron.
Yeah.
Almost none of them.
Yeah, it hurts. It's a tough day. And, coming back to cycling and just talking about Lance, he will go out and do gravel races and he'll look at the different options. And there could be a 60-mile gravel route and there could be a 100-mile gravel route. And he's like, no, not going to do it. I know myself. And it's just like, that's too much. And for some people, like a full Ironman, that's too much. And they're going to want to go the half or the
because
Olympic.
I mean, think about how many road cyclists are like, oh yeah, I'd love to do RAM. Like, not that many.
Yeah.
I mean, there are the guys that like they have that itch for the ultra stuff.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I mean, we love those guys. Those guys are great. But like most of your road cyclists are like, no, I think a 70-mile road race is about as far as I want to be going
and
into the
even
hurt walker there.
that hurts.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's like Cat 1-2 type stuff. Yeah.
3 hours and change on the bike with a normalized powered just through the roof, and you're blasting yourself, and you got to leave some in the tank for the finish of that. Yeah, it's tough.
And this is what I wish people getting into endurance sports would realize is that actually trying to better your times isn't just, I always hear people that are like, oh, I don't want to be fast.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to get faster, but I'm going to sign for a full Ironman. It's like, How about just trying to make better your own mile time
Yeah.
in the? I mean, there's lore of running where you look at the greatest runners of all time. There's a reason the mile distance is so revered. It really is. Yeah, sure, it's not a marathon, but nobody would ever go up to a sub 4 miler and be like, "Well, have you run a marathon?" Be like, I'm pretty sure he can make it through it, but this is he likes this distance or she likes this distance.
Yeah.
I wish more people in triathlon would choose those distances that are more sustainable, long-term training, and understand, hey, this takes a while to get good at this, and I'm just going to commit to slowly getting better at this sport over time.
I feel like that is a thing that goes hand in hand with triathlon. Is like every distance is a rung in the ladder to get to the top
To
of
get to the
Ironman.
next distance. Yeah.
Specialize. Find one of them and just camp out there and
I've
get
loved the
yourself as
73
fast as
distance
you
for a
possibly
while.
Yeah.
It's probably been 8 years of my life now has been committed to the 73 distance.
Exactly, and if you had treated that just like a rung in the ladder of getting to Ironman and doing a full,
would have quit by now.
You would have quit by now.
Yeah.
But also, like, how much have you learned just in the last 2 or 3 years of racing pro about yourself by specializing in a particular distance, and how much you've been able to fine tune your training, and then ultimately, if you do decide that you want to go do that full Ironman, you'll know a heck of a lot more about yourself just based on developing yourself in that position.
And I think that's where I really do think that's where social media has done us a disservice. Is it's taken away the glory of long-term specialization for you, and that can mean anything for anybody.
Yeah.
It could be that person who's never swam before, and they're like, I just want to get really good at swimming, like a 1 mile. Like, see how good I can get my 1 mile to. Might take you 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, work on that. I mean, think of our late great friend, Mike Myers. What was he really, really good at?
Time trialing.
Time trialing.
Yeah.
And that man's special. He wanted to be so good. That 40K type distance was going to be his sweet spot. And, if he was obsessed with the next greatest social media thing, he might be like, oh, maybe I should race Ram. And then who knows? He might absolutely have hated cycling after a couple of years and given up.
Like and he did love road racing as well. But that was what he was really good at, and he wanted to go and race nationally and see how he stacked up, and he probably could have done pretty damn well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's not to talk down that we have guys. I mean, I'll say like Josh Mott, if he tell me like, hey, what should I specialize in? Ironman. He's great. I mean, that's where his engine is. Yeah. A guy like Scott Goodrich, Ironman. Yeah, but that's the 1%. That's the very few people that are like, yeah, that might actually be the best distance that you are able to get. Yeah. You're good at.
And it's kind of funny, and this happens on the road too. Like, we all think we're whatever we think we are until we go out there and race against others, and then we kind of get humbled, and then we're like, all right, well, maybe I'm not a climber. Talking about myself here. Yeah, maybe I'm more of a roller or a puncher. I used to be able to climb decently well, and I've had comments to me back before I was broken in half. Man, you climb really well for a big guy. Yeah, and a big guy, that's me weighing in at like 182 or 183. I'm like, it's not huge, but in the cycling world, that's a big dude.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Cool. Now, one more thing, going back to the sustainability component of it, running breaks you down, and
to some extent, yes. Yeah.
Be real with me. Like, you treat do a lot of physical therapy treatment on a lot of triathletes. Yeah. What discipline is usually the biggest problem for them? Yeah.
Running definitely is. And here's the reason that I think running gets a bad name as something that breaks you down. So, and this goes back to how we've lost patience as a society. So there are people that are genetically geared more towards definitely handling heavier and faster running loads. I mean, you look at a Jakob Ingesbritten, the Norwegian kid, is like born once a million years. There's very few of them. But I think when you look at old sports medicine research that was talking about how running wears down your knees, wears down your hips, wears down your back, wears down your ankles, it was because of the way we told people to train.
Okay.
So running itself, and there's been some really good recent research, if it's done well and sustainable is a key word, for a long time, it actually improves your joint health.
Okay.
The problem is with running, you're walking a much finer line. So it's a much more destructive activity, but it also, anything that's more destructive, it's like powerlifting. Is powerlifting bad? No, it's good. If you do it well, training. If you don't do it well, it's much more destructive than something like swimming. Where swimming, you could do swimming moderately okay and really not break down yourself too much.
Gotcha.
Cycling similar in that way. Running, you walk a much finer line. So with running, unfortunately, with our lack of patience, most people, what's the distance everybody wants to run? The marathon.
Yep.
How many people should be running the marathon in the amount of time that they gave themselves to train for it? Very few. Most people go too fast to that distance.
What is your recommended amount of time spending training to get your body acclimated and,
That's actually a
ready
very-
for a marathon?
From somebody who hasn't really run before or
Correct.
very, very
Yeah,
recreationally
let's just
run.
say that I didn't have an ankle issue,
Yeah.
and I
No-
could go run.
No
How-
lie, 8 to 10 years.
8 to 10 years
That
before
would be
you run
how
your
long.
first marathon.
Yes, that's
Really?
actually how long I would tell somebody.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, if you come, now there's a big drop off though. If you come from a running background,
Uh-huh.
if you were a good cross country runner in high school, ran in college, took a year or two off, and came back, 2 years.
Okay. So like,
Yeah.
if Matt came to you, you're going to tell him 2 years.
Not at his age right now with his history. There's different with Matt. Different. Matt, I think in 4 to 5 years could get
Okay.
back to that level.
Gotcha. All right,
Yeah.
Well, I was a decent cross country runner in high school, but I
Yeah.
did not run cross country at all in college.
And this
I
is
did
where-
run a little bit, but that was about it. So.
With your aerobic base, well, let's pretend like you don't have the injury history.
Yeah.
That you had there, and with your aerobic base, 2 to 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I came to you and said, Evan,
I
it's
wanna run a marathon.
I want to
Yeah.
run a marathon in 23, you'd tell me no.
No, yeah, I'd say too soon.
What would you tell me to focus on first?
The 10K and half marathon and building
Gotcha.
good speed in those two distances.
Interesting.
Yeah. But like we said, the unfortunate thing I see is mostly it's the beginner runners that come into me that have the plans. And this is where, God, I hate Google. You can Google anything on like short-term marathon training plan. And they're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
here's your 12-week plan. 12 weeks. I'm like, you guys, yes, you can make it. The question is, can I make it through the marathon? That absolutely.
Yeah.
But when, just like you said, is why does running get a bad name as something that breaks you down? Is imagine if somebody was like, could you survive off 4 hours of sleep a night? Well, yeah. Oh, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah.
How long until something bad's going to happen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A year? Probably a year. And then something's going to break apart.
Love those programs. You should love them with
Oh,
all of your
they-
heart.
you know,
It's
to be
great
honest,
job
they are.
security.
They are great job security. That is for sure. I know whenever anybody comes in, they're like, what's my diagnosed injury? I was like, I'm just going to diagnose your training plan.
Yeah.
The injury was definitely going to happen.
So too much too soon, too much
That's the
progression, and
diagnosis.
it's
Too
just
much
really
too
gotta.
soon. Yep.
Okay,
Got
gotcha.
too steep a progression.
All right, my friend, you got anything else you want to throw at me that's going to convince me or the people listening that they should maybe try a try?
I think the reason to try a try primarily is just because it can be a breath of fresh air. The same exact reason I would tell somebody who does triathlon to do just a running race, an open water swim race, or a road cycling race. Is I think in the endurance world we need to realize there's so many different things you can do with years of aerobic base underneath you. Why not, like, if you're a little burnt out on road cycling, don't quit road cycling. Just try a triathlon or go do a running race. For God, like, do anything that's not a bike race for a season.
Yeah.
Even just in the beginning of the season, and I guarantee you'll come back to road racing, missing it and loving it again.
Gotcha.
So for all those people who hate triathlon, do a triathlon so you hate it and then want to get back to road racing.
Gotcha. So how about this? Stand up
Yeah.
paddleboard,
Yep.
go do the bike,
Yep.
and then get one of those elliptical bikes.
Not ellipticos. Ellipticos, absolutely. Or roller skates.
Or roller skates. Hey, there
I
you
guarantee
go.
Carissa would let you throw on a pair of roller skates. I guarantee she'd be fine with that. For all that you've done for Chris, I guarantee
Yeah.
she'd be like, Jake, go and throw them on.
And
That'd be
if-
great.
for those that don't know, and I've talked about this way too much, I don't get into it too much anymore. I try not to because it's labor intensive for me to have to go through this over and over again. I'm sure people are sick of hearing it. I got hit by a car 3.5 years ago.
The ankle is something that we haven't talked about in a while, though.
It is,
That's- yeah.
and it actually was last week. I had a little bit of an issue with that.
Yeah.
I will step funny sometimes, and I'll be hobbling around for the
Catch
rest of
on
the
you.
day. So
Yeah.
in the process of getting hit by a car, it completely destroyed me. It was something where my shoulder, like a nuclear bomb, went off of my shoulder. Everything that can get torn got torn, and everything that could break could pretty much break in there. So they had to put that together with multiple surgeries. And then I also had a broken ankle and broken ribs and a really bad concussion and a TBI. Is probably why I'm stuttering a little bit here and there every now and then, or that I just never eat anymore. But anyway, long story short, the ankle is still a bit of an issue. The orthopedic still is recommending that I have surgery on that. There's a bit of cartilage in there.
Cartilage chunk, yeah.
It's floating around and it gets hung up sometimes, and the jury's kind of out whether or not that's a productive surgery or not. It's like, it's better to dance with the devil, as opposed to going in there and having that surgery that's kind of 50-50 to begin with that could ultimately make it worse. So I've opted to just go the route of like deal with it.
Yeah.
When I'm riding a bike, I'm a tiny bit of a toe pointer, which is actually a good thing that plays in my favor. If I was the opposite, that'd probably be a bad thing. But at the end of the day, I don't really run. I can't really run anymore. And that was something I used to kind of dabble with a little bit way back in the day. And it's something that's always interested me. And I love like trail stuff and I love hiking and whatnot, but I have to be somewhat careful. The thought or the idea of trying a triathlon, as much as we poke fun at you, that's always something that's been in the back of my head, but I just don't think I can do it. I don't think
I think for your running progression, it would be way different than even your typical cyclist who had no running experience. You actually have running experience.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it would be you would have to do a lot of ancillary stuff, which is a lot of like cycling is a wonderful sport, but does not train a lot of stability in the ankles, especially or knees. I mean, really, we're talking just the world's most linear sport, basically. And with your ankle damage, the problem is any loss of stability there is amplified quite a bit from somebody who does not have the injury you had there. So like somebody who's just a clumsy cyclist could take the same step that you do hiking and be fine afterwards. The problem is you have cartilage deficits in there.
Yeah.
So really it would be a lot of balance training and a lot of slow progression to running. We're talking like your first runs would need to be 5 by 1 minute. And that's like an actual pretty strict. And it would have to slowly go by symptoms allowing. And it'd probably be like the most runs you could do in a week to start would be 2.
Wow.
So could you get to a sprint triathlon? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting to an Olympic, probably for it to be able to tolerate a 10K would be, we're talking that like year to 2 year progression.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And this is where your aerobic engine would get you in trouble. Is because God forbid you would go on a run with Becca and like, I mean, she'd be cruising along. You're like, I feel absolutely fine. I keep on going. You might be fine until you get back in the ankle.
Yeah, it's screaming at you. Yeah.
That cartilage isn't going to talk to you until it's healing. So that's,
Well, the one thing that's really keeping me from doing a triathlon is my shoulder. The fact that I can't even lift my arm above my
swimming
shoulder.
would be very tough right now.
Neurological damage and
This
joint capsule
is where I think
issues
anybody who knows the issue that you had early on, it wasn't even the fractures of it or the ligament damage, because that's all stuff that your body would have been able to heal with everything you've had injury past too.
Yeah.
The nerve damage was the biggest issue with the muscle atrophy afterwards.
Yeah, and it's still problematic, but it is what it is, and I have learned to somewhat accept it. It still pisses me off that
we can make you super good at single arm fly. You'd be the only guy I know who can make it through an 800 meters. So I know some drills where I'm like, yeah, Jake's arm could do that. You just hang by his side right here, and we got the single arm coming out to the side. You have to make your kick real good.
Pro doggy paddler.
A lot
there's
of
my
breaststroking.
So, cool. All right, well, that was fun. Cool. Let's jump into one last thing. You got anything for me? Us, everyone, listeners?
No, right now we got coming up this next week, or not next month. It'd be in about a month from now. We're going to be racing the Vancouver Lake Half Marathon.
Yeah.
That's really the next race we have coming up. And outside of that, I'm just kind of in the middle of like a 5-6 week block right now. So block leading into that.
Are you guys putting on any active like weekly runs, rides, swims, or anything like that?
Yeah, we got right now Saturday morning from Frenchman's Bar. We post on the Dialed Triathlon page, and then also the Dial. I think I forgot to post on the Dialed Run page this last week, but Hannah posts on the Dialed Run page.
Good.
9 a.m. at Frenchman's Bar is where we've been running from. We're gonna switch a location around a little bit going forward, but Frenchman's Bar is a nice, nobody gets lost, easy route.
Yeah.
So it makes it nice to run from there. It's been super cold, which is hopefully as soon as it warms up. We had a couple days where we had a lot of people come out, but I know as it gets colder, less people want to come out. So
yeah, it was bright blue skies this morning where I live.
Yeah.
But it was in the
I had ice on the track this morning.
Upper 20s.
Yeah. It was
frozen.
It was freezing this morning, but yeah. And then swim-wise, we're working on a group swim right now. Me and Josh have a good 6 or 7 people who come out for our Sunday morning swims.
Yeah.
Kind of we don't. They're not really allowing like masters reservation for swims, but that's when we swim at Cascade Athletic Club. As soon as it gets warm enough, we will be back in the open water. We just got to be tracking the water temps. Usually end of March, early April, and then. Outside of that, ride-wise, we're not doing really. It's just that a lot of triathletes are jumping into the Tuesday night ride there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good times.
We've talked about doing something that would be more specific just for the juniors too, who have access to Zwift.
Yeah.
Just during the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're able. A couple of these juniors now are actually hanging on in that group, which is great.
Oh yeah, there's some strong kids.
Got Hannah's kid is just she's hanging on the entire ride now. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. Very cool. For me, my one last thing is going to be, speaking of the juniors, we'll call this one last thing for the team. I just, on behalf of the team, I want to say thank you to everybody, because we kind of put out a like, hey, we're trying to help out our juniors. We want to help get them everything that they're going to need. And we've done so much awesome fundraising. We've got a bunch of cool programs that we're already starting to engage for them, and they're going to be reaping the benefits of that big time this year.
That reminds me, I got stuff I need to give you.
There you go.
It's like sitting in a box at home, and I've got like 20 things I need to add to it.
That's the other thing is we asked for people if they have some old hand-me-down kind of stuff to give to the juniors. And I was thinking, oh, maybe we'll get a couple things. Oh my gosh, we've got like bins upon bins of everything you can think of for swim, bike, and run, like wetsuits and what are those paddles, the hand paddles, and
Yeah.
there's all kinds of shoes and jerseys and kit
Yeah.
and trainers and like the whole like computers. I was like, good Lord, you guys are freaking fantastic. So that's been really, really awesome to see. And that might be something that we can even use to like attract even more kids into the sport, not just our juniors, but the kids in the community.
And with on the team, we have some really experienced adult triathletes.
Yeah.
There's no reason that we can't all put together all of our old stuff that no kid should have to pay for a trainer. Mostly, hopefully we can find bike shoes. None of them should have to buy wetsuits because we all have our older wetsuits and bike trainers that we need to be giving them for sure.
Yeah. And so we've also got funds to help these kids with race fees too.
Yep.
So, and then why racing? They're fantastic. They're not charging the kids. I mean, that's fantastic for race injury, which is fantastic. So
They are awesome.
so much
Hopefully we can just
fantastic.
bring another army of dialed juniors and dialed adults there through this next Y season.
Should
Absolutely.
be fun. Yeah, we got a great group of folks.
Yep. We've already all put it. We are planning on hopefully a huge showing out for PDX.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks before my wedding. So me and Cassie will be there.
wow.
Unfortunately for us, Pat Crest, which I would in the next 10 years of my life, I want to go to Pat Crest every
Sure.
year. It's on our honeymoon. So we will
Oh.
not be able to be at Pat Crest. But me and Cassie fully plan on bringing, God, I'd love to see, including the juniors, at least 40, 50 people come out for PDX.
Wow.
I was trying to tell Chris, I was like, I'd like to see it in that number.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and anybody I'm coaching, if they're like, oh, I don't know how it builds in my race season, I'm like, you're putting it in regardless.
You do not have
at
a
least
choice.
there. Yeah, you're at least there for a training day at the minimum.
That's awesome. And then personally, when this podcast comes out on Wednesday, if you haven't already seen it, we're doing our first night gravel ride of the year. We finally have some decent weather so that we can actually go out and ride gravel bikes, and it's not going to be 20 degrees or pouring rain on us. So that'll be fun. We will be doing that Wednesday night at 6 p.m. If you are on the Dialed Cycling Strava group, you will have gotten that invitation. If not, you can go join it, check that out, and come out and join us. Should be fun. Cool. I think that's about it, Evan.
Sounds good.
For Lance and Matt, we'll say
For Lance and Matt, yeah.
thank you for listening. Until next week, have a good one, and bye for now.